Hail Internet, it's Matt here for the Dork Lords. A little programming note. At the time we recorded our recap of the Season 2 finale of the Lazarus Project, it was still up in the air as to whether there would be a Season 3. Since then, it's been announced that the show has been canceled. So, take our theories for a mythical Season 3 with a grain of salt. Code Black. Hail Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here today talking about the Lazarus Project, the Season 2 finale. We open where we left off shortly before the end of Episode 7. It's 2012. Sarah convinces Wes to issue a Code Black, resetting the year. We still don't know who Wes contacts to initiate those resets. She calls in the thing. And, who are you talking to? That's season three, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, it'd be ironic if it was Samson that whole time.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that. You just never asked. That's all. Okay, but just as a reminder, Sarah convinces Wes by saying that the time machine plans and Samson survive. And if they can go back in time, Sarah will get the job done, removing the origin of limitless time travel. So that's, again, just kind of a reminder of how we ended the last episode. We end with several deaths. I mean, it's funny, because I thought one of the main reasons that they reset was because they had so many people die, but I think they had maybe as many deaths in this reset as they did the previous time. Yeah. But anyway, yes, they had a lot of people die, but George, the Dane, and the two Beckys basically fly in the time machine plane back to 2024. Mm-hmm. George heads straight to the Lazarus Project HQ. You know, he's a conscientious worker.
Yeah, that's right.
And he meets up with the new Wes, which is Sarah, who says she's been waiting for him. We then also get a post-credit scene in which we learn that Bryson is the one who anonymously told Becky to guard George from himself, from Bryson. I think his reasoning is that in the end, George ultimately saved the Beckys, so to keep them alive, he has to keep George alive. I think it's his reasoning.
Wow. Okay.
I think he feels some sense of fatherhood towards Becky, because he was acting as her father for so long. I think he feels for her, so he's like, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do to try to keep you alive. So anyway, all that said, Paul.
Yes.
What'd you think of the Season 2 finale?
I'm so glad I watched it again, because I think, or at least, I don't know, we can hear you, because I watched it twice, your opinion. But initially, I think I told you that when Bryson went into the time machine, that it wasn't related. But no, it probably was entirely. That's what he was flashing to, when he saw George.
Yeah. So we see Bryson in 2012 using the machine, and then while he's using it, the alternate timeline George presses the wrong button back in the Swiss lab in 2024, which was from an earlier episode. It's the moment when George and Bryson make eye contact right before the base explodes. So I'm guessing it was George pushing these buttons because there was a time machine there at the time. So I'm guessing somehow maybe this freak accident is why Bryson happened to be in the machine in a way that's what ties Bryson to George, maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, that's just a thought.
Who knows?
We don't get confirmation of that.
No, we don't get any confirmation at all.
That is a theory.
Yes. So I enjoyed it, even though I feel like there's stuff in there where it's like you could, there are holes that you could drive a truck through.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why does Becky exist?
I
told you that at least
obvious.
One of the Janets lived. No, she went out and blew herself up. So.
Yeah, no, both Janets are dead, and yet both Beckys are alive.
Yeah.
And so what that says about time travel in this world is that it's not one of those Back to the Future things where, oh, you killed my dad, so now I don't exist. Like, it definitely is like, once you're around, you're around.
Yeah.
I guess like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. There's some timey-wimey elements for sure.
Yeah. And the thing that we talked about, I saw even more firmly. We talked about the fact that the Dane, when they get away and he flies off, they've got a time machine. So they just killed all those people, and a time machine is like, oh, the one that's in a plane is okay. Like the Dane understands that the time machine should be destroyed, so, you would think that once they got back, he would do that. But they don't show any of that at all.
Or that he would just see it as a one-way trip, and that, he should destroy the time machine. Better to destroy the time machine.
But it wasn't one-way, it's two-way.
To fly back to 2024.
Yeah.
You would think they would have shown that if that had happened in the moment, they would have shown the Dane blowing up the time machine. They didn't. The time machine exists.
Yep.
Now, maybe at this moment there is not a season 3 planned, but they certainly have a lot of plot elements if they wanted to go season 3.
Oh, sure.
And you would think, I would guess, I don't know, probably episode 1, either they blow up the plane and we show it blowing up, or they go to blow it up and it's been stolen. Oh, someone's got the time machine plane. Anyway.
Well, I mean, they still have that dangling thread of Becky wants to kill Sarah. She promised. Yeah. Promised to kill her.
Swore vengeance.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's do the body count.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of important. So,
well, isn't it easier to start at who's still alive, like
I know.
Ross?
It feels almost like a cheat to say I'm mad at Samson, considering. But I'll say this:
he died
Samson in the weirdest way. So now, 2012, Samson just got murdered. But 2024 Samson. So
if he had just been smart enough to be like, "There's nobody who knows how," he'd yep, there's nobody. Nobody knows.
So Wes stops our fleeing heroes. That would be the two Beckys, George, and Samson.
Yep.
And she's like, "It's over, George. The machine is destroyed, and anyone who knew how it works is dead."
Yeah.
So she said, she's not saying, "Oh yeah," except for that guy over there. She doesn't know.
No.
She doesn't know.
No. Well, presumably.
And so she's like, "Everyone's dead. I feel confident." And Samson steps forward and says, "Not everyone." And then he is immediately shot to death. Like, oh, man, John Samson. You play that off. Oh, man. I mean, I'm mad at him, but I expected him to try. I don't know. Like, come on now. Anyway, so yes, he died. So, indeed, both the 2012 and 2024 Samsons are dead.
Yep.
As are all the scientists. So, Samson is currently out of the show. I mean, alternate timelines, he could come back, but at the moment, he is currently not in the show.
Correct.
Same scenario for Janet. She's currently out of the show. 2012 and 2024 Janets are both dead.
Robin Lerner dead.
Robin Lerner is dead in probably both realities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For Archie and Rebrov, their 2024 selves are almost certainly dead. We didn't see a funeral, but the implication is that both of them are dead. But the 2012 versions of both of them are still alive. Assuming they didn't die off screen, which that would be kind of lame. So let's assume they're alive. And I think for the rest of the major characters who went back to 2012, both of their selves are still alive. I think that's the way that works. Obviously there are a lot of people that are only existed in one timeline, didn't have two of themselves that died. Dr. Gray dead.
So Sarah and we're assuming
Sarah
possibly and George, right?
We have the two Beckys.
Two Beckys and we have Archie, possibly.
One Archie.
Yeah. The other one wasn't involved with the, so there's the
exactly.
real
So
Archie.
she's out. She could get recruited. In fact, if you wanted to do, here's a theory for season 3, if there is one. So Zhang is hanging over the body of dying 2024 Archie.
Yeah.
She probably goes and seeks out 2012 Archie. She loves her. Maybe she goes and tries to start a relationship with 2012 Archie. I don't know.
Maybe that's what helped Ross live.
Right. So Ross 2012 Ross survived, and he gets the knowledge that, hey, coming up, you're going to drop a grenade and you're going to die. And so he's aware of that, and he's trying to change that fate. So theoretically, he
And we don't know, like, I
so
think one of the things we assumed, or at least we thought it was possible, that the reason why Ross blew up is because Wes was mad because he made her
that it was a
reset in order to save Archie. But
and now that may not be a matter.
Right,
question. Yeah. There's a little joke of the COVID joke where he's like, "Oh, this way I can experience 2020."
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's terrible. He's like, anyway, so that's kind of the state of play in terms of who's alive, who isn't. There would be 2 Georges now in 2024, and I believe 2 Sarahs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably. Still, I think 1 Wes. Yeah, right, Wes didn't go back in time. So Wes and Shiv did not go back in time, so there would just be 1 of them. So Sarah's basically the Terminator in this episode, right? She goes back in time to change the future by killing a bunch of folks.
Yeah, and does anything change for this timeline, Bryson, because his father died?
Right. No, you're right. Why would he continue in necessarily his... He sticks to the plan, obviously, when he's including everybody in on stuff.
No, but I mean, when he was a kid and got his face smashed in.
We know that happened because Bryson in the future was like, "You're a terrible person, George."
Right, but in this thing, he didn't get his face smashed in.
Oh, right.
And he didn't get the serum, so he shouldn't be a member that it happened to him.
These are all great points, sir.
Yeah.
I have the answer right here on this fact sheet that you sent to me. So it is one of the dangers of this show. This season got way more into the weeds time-wise than the previous season did. I feel like season 3 would do the same.
I wonder if
at some point it becomes absurd. I mean,
I wonder if they would, talk to Joe Barton, the guy writing the show, and like, you want to do a third one? It's like, well, so much work. Just gets harder from this point.
So I feel like one of the big telling dialogues that kind of spells out where Sarah and George split is when Sarah is talking to George about how, look, all the agents now have foreknowledge.
Yeah.
And they're all going to try to change their fate.
Yeah.
Even though she's saying it in the same conversation where she's pointed out that, George beat the hell out of this guy with the phone. And he's like, yeah, but I knew I was going to have to do it, so I had to do it. Yeah. Like he felt like he had to kind of lean into the fact that he was fated to do it.
Sure.
And so I feel like that is we know before about their relationship.
Yeah.
George thinks they're together through fate.
Yep.
She's like, I don't really think that's true. Sure. And so we see that here too, where she's like, fate isn't a thing. We have freedom of choice. And this would be terrible for that scenario, so that's why I'm on Team West.
Yeah, it's like, if you're responsible, you should consider all this stuff the way that you didn't consider this, George.
Right. She's like, you could have changed it. He's like, what do you mean? It's impossible. I was fated to beat the crap out of that kid with a phone.
No, but I mean, she's saying that you should have thought about it way back instead of saving me. You shouldn't have set off bombs and crap like that.
Yep. So now, because also, I mean, while I thought maybe that was the end of their relationship when she watched him beat the hell out of a guy with a phone, I feel like now it's probably the end. I don't know, though. They're back together in 2024, but boy, when he was witnessing her, like, murder Janet and everything, I feel like that would be the end of their relationship.
It could be, right? Because, I mean, one of the things that could have happened while she was waiting for George to come around and staying away from her own self is to find that dude that's, That's
true. Or, I mean, probably not, but if you want to go really weird, season 3, she is with George. She's with the other George. Ah!
Oh, and what? The Sarah that's walking around?
The Sarah that's walking around in 2024.
Doesn't he meet him, or she meets the other dude?
She meets the 2012 version of George, and then he never joins Lazarus Project.
Oh.
He's just clueless, but he's like,
interesting.
Whatever. Anyway,
okay.
That's a weird one. That's
pretty weird.
That's weird.
That's pretty weird.
Because it would be pretty tough right now. I mean, I guess you could devise a reason why George stays with the Lazarus Project, but for him to show up and Sarah's sitting there and she's like, great, I've been waiting for you. Let's get to work. Oh, I just watched you murder all these people. I think I'm out, thanks. But, it doesn't have to be that way, I guess.
Well, I mean, if we're assuming that a lot of the events that originally happened, what is it? George, his awareness of all the timelines begins, after COVID, and so he still would get knowledge of something going wrong, and then
watch what you mean,
Archie's still going to go to say, "Hey, you," it's like here's the deal, but you shouldn't join.
That's a great point. Great point. He would, because he did not need the serum to remember the past. So we have, speaking of people who don't need the serum, Shiv saves George and the girls ultimately, and I think partially because, maybe even more than partially, largely perhaps due to the fact that Janet was their mother. He makes the note, that's Janet, that's your mother's pendant.
Yeah, that's right.
So she has died, and he just came from his own mother's deathbed.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
And so I think he wants to honor Janet by saving her.
Sure, why not? Yep, he's got a soft spot for mothers.
He does.
That's why he doesn't kill Wes, because Wes is a mom too.
Yeah, it's true. He shoots the other agent. He does.
Shoots him right there.
Wes, you're fine. Although Wes is kind of whereabouts unknown in 2024 now.
Yes.
We're not sure how that worked out. George remembers that Janet is a Crystal Palace fan.
Yes.
Crystal Palace is a soccer football team in the English Premier League. They're kind of a perennially mid-table team. What's interesting is that George says they sacked their manager in 2024. Now, at the time this show was filmed, Roy Hodgson, Crystal Palace manager, had just been rehired back in 2023. So this show did not know this to be true, which means it's risking creating an alternate timeline in which Roy Hodgson got fired from the Eagles job in 2024.
I would, say, wow, you told Janet that her team won. I didn't figure she would live, so I lied to her.
But what are some other seasons?
I don't know. I was going to say that, I think I wouldn't mind if there wasn't a season 3.
Yeah, I feel like this might be a good place to end it. It's kind of like it's a stinger at the end of everything went completely different. And this person who at the beginning of season 1 wasn't in the project, was like the whole reason that George goes through and sabotages everything. She's now the head of the organization. I feel like that is kind of a fun way to resolve it and just move on.
Yeah, but I mean, if they did try to do it, that's fine, I guess. But
it would have to be clever. They're going to have to. But
they would really have to be clever, and in a way, I kind of feel like they weren't clever enough this season. It's like they bit off more than they could chew.
They get a little wink at some of the technical side of time travel, and we're like, it's fine, which is fine. It's enjoyable to watch. The characters are great. I thought the characters
were great. I like how they when they introduce new characters, they tend to be nice. I don't know.
I agree that I feel like the odds are that season 3 would be a bit of a letdown if they did it. So maybe it
because we assume that either A, they would say that yes, we've gone back to the status quo where you can only do a year, and we don't have time machines that can go anywhere, or that's the thing where it's like, okay, we still got to get the time machine, and so I can't imagine it, but maybe they could find a way to make it interesting. But the thing that in a way that I almost kind of again doesn't make me feel like I want them to keep going is that they set up in the first season that Sarah was sort of wishy-washy on George.
Yep.
She loved him, but then she didn't know whether she could commit to him or not. So then she finds out all this information about him, and that she becomes an agent. Okay, that's fine. And then they introduce this thing about the path not taken or whatever. But to me, it's like her doubt about George. What's that about? I don't think we ever found that out really. And therefore, it's sort of convenient. Like, okay, it seems like they're together so that Sarah can finally betray him. So in a way, I just feel like they never really, I guess that's the way they could hook me, is that they really decided to tell a story about Sarah that sort of included rationales for where she is and all that. Just in a way, you could say that it was convenient, like You need to have controversy, and you need to have antagonism, and so that's why Sarah decides, okay, no, this makes sense.
I saw an interesting theory. I don't ascribe to it.
Oh, okay.
But there's a fun theory I've seen online that Wes and Robin Lerner are actually versions of Sarah and George.
Oh yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No, it honestly doesn't.
But just the idea that like somehow in all the time travel they ended up and they had a kid together, so Bryson would actually be George and Sarah's kid. Anyway, but yeah, that's weird. But yeah, but it's out there.
Yeah. I feel like without seeing that episode where Wes hires Sarah, I like you.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the way this show was going at all. That's not. But it did give itself plot points to go for season 3. I am a little. They have to prove it to me. I'm like, come on now, because I do. Admittedly, I thought they did overachieve with season 2. I liked it a lot, but as you say,
thought they overachieved. Oh, okay.
I do. I felt like I'm not a big time travel guy. I feel like there are ways you can screw that up big time in a plot, and they kind of did. They kind of fell into those traps, but I thought they kind of stepped through it and still had compelling characters, and I still enjoyed watching the show. Okay. So I'm like, good on you, show. But I feel like the more they push that, the harder it'll be for me to ignore it in the favor of just looking at the fun characters. So let's just end here. I enjoyed both seasons. Thumbs up to them both. But yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, all right.
Well, thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good
problem.
sir.
No problem.
Had a good time here chatting about the Lazarus Project.
Yes.
Drop your comments out there if you have some thoughts on what you would expect for a mythical season 3. So, okay. Talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.